Welcome to Wise Wicked Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I built this. Let's get into it. So I recreated the scope so that way I could use a piece of conduit. I printed out, somebody had the scope available and I printed it out, and it was just a tube. It would have worked, but I didn't like it, so I decided to make my own that had the conduit be nice and sturdy, a little heavier. Then I just started sanding down to make sure that everything would fit after I get done painting and everything. I didn't show it on the video here, but I cleaned it. I cleaned this piece after I sanded it, and now I'm gonna fix the parts that were kind of messed up from the 3D printing, and I get a nice smooth finish with using resin and then using the UV flashlight to cure it. Make sure to clean it well and make sure to cure it fully, otherwise the paint will start to peel after you're already done all that work. I'm happy with what I did. Now it's on to the next step. I redid the barrel of this version so that way it was one piece, it was hollow, and that I could put the T-rails on individually without it being printed all in one shot. I didn't like that. I like to add kind of layers, just like you do with paint. So when you add parts like this to a 3D print, I think it really makes it look real. It makes it pop. It brings out the look. And plus it's really easier to put together. Less work, I feel. It's just easier to sand and prepare. And then when you feel it's good enough, then you would glue it on. The super glue or CA glue kind of acts as a filler as well sometimes. I'm using a brush here just to kind of sand it a little bit so the paint will stick to the T-rails, that's all. Now it's time to paint. I did use a satin black here. It didn't really matter to me just because I knew that I was going to weather it. So painting the greeblies. I actually ran out of gunmetal gray, so then I had to move over to a hammered paint, this one right here. But I think it actually made it look really cool. So here's something that I found out. I didn't shake this can well enough, and you could see that there's blotches that were starting to form, and I actually had to come back later and sand it to get those blotches and stuff off, and then re-spray painted it again with the same flat black, and it gave it an awesome texture. Now this here, I'm just giving it a little bit of sanding to try and give it some grain, like a wood grain, after painting. I'm figuring out which bolts to use, how long, so they don't hit each other. Now it's time to start throwing it all together. CA glue everywhere. Always do your dry test before gluing. Time to add the greeblies. Actually clamped it to the table. Yeah, my resin prints kind of folded up a little bit, as you can see. So I had to clamp it down a couple times. With 2 clamps actually for that piece. Performing a little magic here to try and make it dry quicker. So I found a couple spots that look too 3D-ish. So I added some CA glue to try and take away some of the marks. It works well sometimes. I use activator to dry it faster. Time to put it all together, which I was stumbling a little bit on camera. Just be patient. Adding the trigger guard. Make sure everything is straight. It's locked in place forever. Now doing this piece is the most important. Make sure you have it the correct way, like the picture. Otherwise it's also locked in place forever. I added all the screws for the mounting to the scope, and then the plan is to use the piece that's going to be glued to the stock. Make sure you get that all mounted correctly, get it tightened down so that way when you go to add it to the stock, do your final super gluing, that it's going to be straight and the way that you want it. Make sure it doesn't move on you, so keep on tightening things up until it doesn't move. Now for the fun part. Make sure it's straight. And I'm using a brush here to clear away some of the super glue that might have squished out from underneath because I added too much maybe. And then it also looked like a weld mark or something. I just drilled 2 holes at the back so I could put some bolts in just to make it look nicer. Be careful when gluing around the acrylic because I actually put smudged on mine, so now it's locked in place forever unless I rebuild it. Yeah, in my version of the model of scope, I added pieces that you could actually put the target reticles on. Please like and subscribe! I think that added an extra touch. Now it's time for the fun part, the weathering. Here I use a Winsor & Newton water mixable black mixed with water. I put it on thick all over, and I tried to do it in large sections so it kind of looked the same. So I pretty much did the whole thing with the black, the whole front area, trying not to get my lenses dirty. So now I'm using the Winsor & Newton burnt umber to give it kind of like a different layer, like a rust.
Ooh. 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 Can you see it? Can you see it? Oh, there it is. It's hard to see, but there it is.
Lights for your workshop.
Peace!